Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain. It's Faraz bringing you the latest news, reviews, and blockchain tech. If it's your first time here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and hit that bell notification icon so you can stay up to date with the latest. Now, today we are going to be looking at Chromia, formerly known as Chromopolis from ChromaWay. They're creating a hybrid public blockchain with a relational database combined together. Ultimately, this really is aimed at developers to be able to create dApps on scale, faster, transact quicker. But more importantly, because it's based on a relational database, it should be familiar to those developers currently out there today in a language that they can actually easily adopt and take on board. So rather than me telling you all the nitty-gritty details about Chromia, let's jump in to an interview with the CEO, Henrik, who's going to take us through the entire project, talk about the project, talk about the team, talk about the technology, talk about advisors, fundraising, everything. So let's jump right in and see what Henrik had to say. Henrik, welcome to the channel. Appreciate you taking the time, especially on this wonderful Sunday afternoon, to really talk about Chromia and what it's all about. So before we really jump straight into the thick of what it is, why don't you just give us a little brief background about who are you and who are you, Henrik? What's your position? And let's jump into Chromia.
Yes, so I'm Henrik Hjelte. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Chromia. And I got into this because I had a previous startup using a weird programming language, and I employed a subcontractor from Ukraine. And that web startup didn't fly, so I went back into consulting. This guy from Ukraine, he introduced me to Bitcoin and a new product that he had made that was the first token protocol where you can have user-defined tokens called the KuCoin protocol. So if it's basically, he made the first source code in 2012. Then he had an open source product around it. It was kind of a planned school for a lot of people in the industry. Today, 2014, it basically broke up into several competing projects, etc. Vitalik started Ethereum, we started ChromaWay, and some other people went to digital assets that started, etc. Yeah, so we started with public blockchains, then went into the enterprise blockchains, and now we are going back into doing public blockchains again with Chromia. So that's how I got into this.
And so what is Chromia to the masses? I mean, you said blockchain, but what specifically is Chromia exactly?
Yeah, so it's a public blockchain intended to make it easy to make those public applications that we all want, like decentralized social networks controlled by users, political systems controlled by users, decentralized organizations, etc. We've been hearing talks about that, but there's one problem that's quite hard to do that using existing technologies. So what is unique with Chromia is that it's a combination between a blockchain and a traditional database, relational database. We call the concept relational blockchain. So it is using the same technology to manage data as used in 99% of all enterprise applications for the last 30 years.
So SQL, for example, SQL.
Yeah, I mean, that's the known. Yeah. We do have another language that's more secure and more adapted to blockchain, a little nicer, I would say. But all these SQL databases, they are the de facto standard if you want a non-trivial application. It's just the fact of the world. Take a look at SAP, Facebook, whatever. It's based on an SQL database. And so we're bringing that to the blockchain world, which makes it a lot easier to do those complex applications. So both fewer code lines, but also more powerful features for searching information, structuring information, etc. Because blockchain is about data, and we have that's the unique aspects. If I would pick one.
Okay. Now, I mean, if we're talking about uniqueness, I mean, who are you going head to head with in this space? Are you going head to head with anybody? Are you looking to kind of coexist?
No, I wouldn't say so. We can be the place where the, sort of annoyed people that have been trying out blockchain development. When they got to see the troubles that they end up with trying to do those complex applications, they will look for something else. So they will probably look at more productive tools, and that's where we fit in. But I think that all in this space are striving to the similar goals, and we have friends with a lot of projects and people in this space. But of course, I mean, we are a decentralized application platform, so Ethereum, EOS, all the new faster blockchains and that are coming up. So we're a fast blockchain too, but uniqueness is the ease of use and the powerful programming tool.
So you mentioned sort of, I suppose we're going back to 2014. So clearly you've been in the space for a while now, right? And so why don't we look a bit more about your team in general? So, I mean, obviously we know how you got into the space and what you were sort of doing before. But when we look at your wider team, what sort of skill sets do you kind of have within the space to make you feel like you're going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a good developer, etc., but I don't do that much development anymore. Nothing at all. So I'm the CEO, but I understand the technology as well as various entrepreneurial skill sets. Our big genius is Alex Mizrahi, our CTO. They came up with the first token protocol, been doing research and consensus protocols, etc., and been very active in the space on Bitcoin Talk and Reddit, etc., in social media. And he's invented quite a lot of things here. So it's mainly his brainchild, the core technology. So Alex Mizrahi is a very important co-founder, our CTO. Our third co-founder, Or Perman, he is very much connected into the space. He started the world's first user-friendly Bitcoin wallet in 2011 called SafeBit, together with the CTO of Ripple now. So I think it was the first article on TechCrunch, I think, about Bitcoin featuring Or. So he's been, he was basically hanging around to the ChromaWay project, and I think we have complementary skills in the business team, me and Or. Then we have, of course, have a broader team. We're about 40 people now, and some are really good developers.
And you're all full-time on Chromia?
Yeah, basically, it's. I mean, if of these 40 people, maybe a few are part-time, and a few are more than full-time. So yeah, I'd say that's.
Now, curious about sort of when we look outside your team. I mean, in terms of advisors and partnerships, I've heard a few names sort of thrown around here, but I mean, I'd be interested to hear sort of who are your advisors, who are your sort of partners outside of Chromia?
Yeah, ChromaWay has been a company in the field for a long time, so we have the early people that were interested in blockchain. We have a good advisory team in ChromaWay. Maybe I don't know how much marketing I should make, but you can check ourselves on the ChromaWay advisor. But there's some highly influential cryptocurrency people there, people that have started their own blockchains, people that are now working in enterprise blockchain projects. We have people that are owning banks, all sort of people. Chromia, of course, as well has its own advisors, a good team of people that know this market.
So in terms of your advisors and sort of partnerships, what sort of, I'm always interested in terms of what sort of value they bring in. Are they actively helping you co-develop? Are they helping you to network more with other areas?
Network, of course, is I mean, for example, take one if we have like Vinny Lingham, for example, we can always ask him for his networks in his Valley, etc. And he knows a lot of people. He can be a door opener as well if you need to ask for financial questions. We could ask Ryan, that's an owner of a bank, etc. If we need to talk cryptocurrencies, we can talk with technological questions. We can have a discussion with Charlie Lee, etc. So they have their own rules.
So let's talk a bit more about your roadmap. I mean, I read somewhere that you'd have mainnet already up and running prior to your IEO happening. So I mean, what are the key milestones that have happened or about to happen actually with Chromia?
Yes, so now we're launching a testnet. So we basically had our new programming language RHEL. It's compared to a lot of other blockchains, we're not basing this on Solidity. It would be impossible because this is basically a relational database, of course. So we made a new language that is also a normal programming language, but also have database constructs built in. It has static typing. It's more condensed, 1/6 of the code lines or 1/7 of SQL. So we had that language up in a test since the beginning of the year, and now we are releasing some example dApps to show what's possible with this kind of technology. That you can have complete game logic on chain, for example, a complete game. You can have a complete social network on chain in a very easy way. So we're showcasing a few of those dApps in a testnet that we're launching now. Inviting beta testers. Will open up tomorrow.
Okay. And that's so that's the testnet opening up tomorrow to beta testers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the testnet is coming a little later, but the invitation. So roadmap. We have an IEO coming on KuCoin, the 28th, because we got a little criticism because it was a closed pre-sale to investors, and people wanted to open it up to the community and do an ICO, which is legally difficult. Plus, it's also considered. We saw it as angel investment, basically a high-risk product. Maybe it shouldn't be open for anyone to invest that cannot do his own due diligence on technology, etc. But now you can look a little bit more at what we are doing. So we're opening up for an IEO on KuCoin. That's the second milestone.
Okay.
And then mainnet as soon as possible. We have a goal to do it this summer, but it's always difficult. We publish a roadmap, and people criticize because we're too late. But then maybe we have added more features, like we have worked on development tools that wasn't in the original plan because to make it easy to do the development. Worked more on documentation to make it useful. But software is hard to estimate. But compared to a lot of other products, we already had a blockchain where we started, an enterprise blockchain that we built on. And you can watch and see.
Curious. So, I mean, touching on you. So you mentioned that you've kind of developed your own programming language, so to speak, to use on Chromia, and it's based on SQL. So I'm assuming that somebody who wants to create their own dApps on your mainnet, they, as in ramping up in terms of knowledge-wise, it must be quite straightforward. Then, if you know SQL, could you say you would know RHEL as well in order to be able to create apps?
Yeah, I mean, if you know any normal iterative programming language and have some experience with SQL, it's very easy to get started.
To ramp up.
Developers, it's not that difficult to learn a new programming language. And this is pretty small. I would say it's quite easy. Definitely worth it because you will get that productivity quite fast. Afterwards.
Interesting, actually. If we delve a bit more into your mainnet, how does the whole in sort of transaction, token, fee, how does that all play out in Chromia? Because I think it's slightly different from Ethereum, for example, where you're paying basically to transact on the smart contract fees, etc. So how does it work within Chromia? Because I've heard that it's not exactly the same, actually.
No, users do not need to own our token. Okay. So the one that is paying for the application is the developer of the application, or that developer can delegate it to the application himself. It could be maybe the users of the application. But it's not. You can implement these mini democracies or whatever. But so the app itself actually pays for its own hosting. So you need this tokens, our native token, in order to pay for hosting an application. That money goes to providers, and basically you as an application developer, or again delegated to the application, decides on who should run your application. So you have a series of reputable providers of basically cloud operators that is running your application, and you basically pick among them. How many nodes do you want? In which countries? Do you think it's likely that they all collude against you in a big conspiracy if you pick from different countries and different backgrounds? Probably not. If you're paranoid, you add more nodes, etc. So you can decide yourself on the security and as well as the performance of the application you want. Super fast service or you want cheap service. So also the token is used as basically insurance or collateral or stake of these providers. If they don't live up to their service level agreements, tokens will be paid out of insurance that they have set up. So that's another use for the token, as well as being an intra dApp payment system. So if you want to move money between different apps running on Chromia, then you can use the token to move between applications. But otherwise, a dApp is free to set its own token system. So you can make a free-to-play game, which has its own in-game currency. So then you just define the tokens in a simple way in our programming language.
So just for my understanding, I've got a slight bit of confusion here. So in terms of, if I was just a general investor, so I mean, there's a couple of different plays, right? You've got investors who obviously will partake in your IEO in order to invest and see an ROI. Now, if I go beyond that, what's the benefit in me, the average user, just holding your tokens? Is there any type of reward mechanism? Is there any type of staking mechanism for me just holding onto your tokens?
No, we don't have staking for the users because we're not a big believer in that security model, that the richest have the most stake. So tokens are mainly for people that want to run applications as well as buy resources in the application. So there is a use for a normal user of the token.
So if I just pick on one bit here, so you mentioned buy resources. So where would you buy those resources from? Just out of, as in,
I mean, say you play a game, for example, that has its in-game currency.
Right.
Maybe you want to buy some. You want to buy some nicer NFTs in the game. And use the Chroma token. That's a lot easier than like accepting it in another way. So that's one reason for having the token.
And if we kind of go a bit further on now in terms of just looking at your token metrics, I won't go too much into detail because there's plenty in your white paper and on your site to kind of go into. But just at a high level, what was the total raise that you were looking to do overall?
So we raised around 11 million in the pre-sale. We had actually some higher in the contracts, but then the Ether dropped and a few people dropped out of the contracts. But around 11 million, and now we are raising 2 million in the IEO. And
your pre-sale, the raise that you had in there, I assume there's sort of vesting in there or locks in there in terms of...
Yes, it's vesting for all the pre-sale investors. We have an unlock schedule based on percentages of the coming up to 16 months or 17, I think. 17 months vesting schedule. So, and we as founders are vested. Employees are vested now for locked for a few weeks, etc. So.
And so you mentioned 2 million is what's been reserved for the IEO. And that's on the 28th. And if anyone hasn't seen it, there's a orange, right? My finger will disappear, but there it is. 28th of May, KuCoin to kind of jump on board. So
and do it fast. Take some time to do due diligence, etc. So
no, of course. So I mean, Henrik, thank you.
Then of course, we will also then open up on various exchanges as well after that. So,
Yes, I'm sure everyone's going to be eager. I won't ask any exchange questions because I know generally you're not allowed to say anything, and that's perfectly understandable. But I suppose stay tuned. Now, if we want to stay up to date, Henrik, in terms of following you guys, Twitter, Reddit, Telegram is the usual channels, right?
Yeah. Homepage, chromia.com leads to most of these other resources. Yeah.
Excellent.
But if you get, as always, be careful if people approach you with various deals on Telegram, etc., because they will, of course, be scammers whenever there's money.
Yep. There's always scammers around IEO time. There's always somebody out there. We will not DM you. So, No, that's fine. Perfectly understandable. Well, Henrik, look, I'm going to let you carry on with your Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you.
And everyone stay tuned. 28th, jump on Telegram, jump on Reddit, jump on Twitter if you want to follow the latest and greatest. And power to the public, I suppose, right?
Yeah, exactly. Power to the public. Yeah.
Cheers, Henrik.
Bye.
Speak to you later.